Federal prohibition of alcohol went into effect in January 1920, and the city of Chicago became a true powder keg full of organized crime. Two outfits would rise to the top: the North Side Irish Gang, headed by Dean O'Banion, and the South Side Italian Gang, known as the Chicago Outfit, that was led by Johnny Torrio. O'Banion's gang, which also included some of Polish descent, became known as the North Side Mob. They were able to take control of the illegal booze market in Chicago, controlling most of the distilleries and breweries, much to the dismay of their South Side rivals. The North Side Mob was also involved with illegal gambling, burglary, and election fraud. The group was able to keep a somewhat positive image by donating to charity as well as giving out food and loans to the poor. They also benefited from allies in the police department who helped protect them. The North Side Mob's near monopoly on distilleries and breweries led to violence as they repeatedly refused to sell any portion of their distilleries to the South Side Gang. On one occasion, O'Banion offered to sell Torrio the Sebin Brewery. On May 19, 1924, Torrio was inspecting the property when it was raided by police at O'Banion's direction, and Torrio was arrested. When he was released, Torrio's Chicago outfit and their allies, the Jenna crime family, a Chicago Sicilian gang operating out of Little Italy, arranged for the killing of O'Banion. On November 10, 1924, O'Banion was shot and killed in the Schofield Flower Shop, a business that he owned. This began a violent 5-year war between the North Side and South Side gangs that would culminate in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Capone survived an assassination attempt at the hands of the North Side Gang in January 1925. 12 days later, Johnny Torrio also survived an assassination attempt by the North Siders after he was out shopping with his wife. Torrio was wounded several times, but as George Bugs Moran was about to kill him, the gun misfired and police arrived, forcing the North Siders to flee. The incident caused Torrio to step down and pass control of the Chicago outfit to Capone. Moran would eventually assume control of the North Side Mob. Fast forward to the morning of February 14, 1929. A call had been made to the North Side Gang to expect a shipment of illegal whiskey from Detroit's Purple Gang, an organization affiliated with Capone's Chicago outfit. In reality, this was a setup designed by Capone's men to lure Bugs Moran and a few of his top lieutenants into an ambush. On the morning of February 14th, 6 members of Moran's gang, as well as a car mechanic who often worked for them, assembled at the SMC Cartage warehouse at 2122 North Clark Street on the north side of Chicago, roughly 2 miles southeast of Wrigley Field. The Capone outfit had a lookout who was watching for Moran to enter the warehouse in order to signal for the attack. The lookout likely saw Albert Weinshank, who closely resembled Moran and even dressed like him, enter the warehouse that morning and signaled for the go-ahead. In reality, Moran had not yet arrived. Soon thereafter, a Cadillac sedan Chicago police car pulled up to the warehouse. 4 men exited the car, 2 wearing police uniforms and holding shotguns, and 2 wearing regular overcoats and clothing, hiding Thompson submachine guns. As they entered the warehouse, the 4 assassins working for Capone's outfit caught the Moran gang completely off guard and told them it was a police raid and to line up against a brick wall. Of course, believing that these were legitimate police officers, the men complied. Capone's assassins pulled out 2 Thompson submachine guns and began spraying the victims with gunfire even after they hit the ground. 2 of the victims were shot with shotguns at point-blank range after falling to the ground. Miraculously, 1 man did live for a few hours. More on him in a moment. After the killing, the 4 assassins left the building. The 2 dressed as police officers pretended to be arresting their 2 partners that were wearing plain clothing as the 4 men entered the Cadillac and drove off. Witnesses nearby who heard the gunfire thought they saw legitimate police officers arresting what must have been 2 men responsible for the gunshots that they heard, when in reality these witnesses were seeing 4 criminals acting out a well-orchestrated murder as they left the site of the crime. It was almost perfect. Well, except for the fact that they missed their top target, Bugs Moran. That morning, Moran was running late. As he and his friend, Ted Newberry, approached the SMC Cartage warehouse in their car, They saw the police car driven by Capone's men pull up to the building. Moran and Newberry immediately turned around and went to a coffee shop instead. The 7 victims who died that day in the warehouse were Peter Gusenberg, who was an enforcer for the Moran organization, Frank Gusenberg, the brother of Peter Gusenberg and also an enforcer, Albert Kecelik, Moran's second-in-command, Adam Heyer, the bookkeeper and a business manager of the Moran gang, Reinhard Schwimmer, an optometrist who had abandoned practicing to gamble on horse racing and associate with the gang, Albert Weinshank, who was the manager of several cleaning and dyeing operations for the gang, and John May, an occasional car mechanic for the Moran gang, who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Miraculously, Frank Gusenberg actually survived for a few hours despite 14 gunshot wounds. He was taken to a hospital where he was questioned by the actual police. When they asked Gusenberg who shot him, he repeatedly said, "No one shot me," sticking true to the code of the streets. Following the St. Valentine's Day massacre, the feds began to crack down on the Chicago crime outfits even more. Moran's outfit lost several of their top gunmen in the massacre, and their power waned throughout the 1930s. Following the repeal of Prohibition, they relied on gambling but eventually lost power to the National Crime Syndicate. Capone was in Florida at the time of the massacre but was widely assumed by the Chicago public to have been responsible. It led to his image taking a plunge in the city, something he tried to rehab through donations to charity and sponsoring soup kitchens during the Great Depression. No one was ever found guilty of the murders, though more than a dozen men have been credibly accused of being one of the gunmen. In 1936, Capone's associate, Jack Machine Gun McGurn, who was allegedly the mastermind of the St. Valentine's Day massacre, was killed, and Moran was one of the prime suspects. However, the true identity of the 4 gunmen remains a mystery to this day. The SMC Cartage Warehouse no longer stands on Chicago's north side. As seen in this side-by-side picture, the location of the former building is now a parking lot. The original bricks from the wall where the killing took place are now in the Mob Museum in Las Vegas, Nevada. The 2 Thompson submachine guns that were used in the killing, which were later ID'd by ballistics testing and traced to the Capone gang, are in possession of the Berrien County, Michigan Police Department. They're sometimes even sent out on tour and are even occasionally still fired as a demonstration.